Good morning. This is Monday, August the 11th of 2025. And I feel like a chicken with my head cut off because it is nearly 10:30 in the morning. And you know, I like to make my video even earlier than this since everybody knows I'm doing it. But life happened this morning and I didn't get to do that. But first of all, thank you for joining me at Kentucky Life with Debbie. And I had a couple of pictures I want to show you before I lose them here on my phone. A little update on the horses. Last Saturday, Hershey, had been in a separate little outside pen by herself until she had her shots. And so Saturday, they introduced her to some new friends, and look, her and that one, this is her right here in the very front with the fly mask on. Whoops, let me see. And then the one next to her with that white coat on, her name is Baby. And they said they made friends just really quick. They put those two in together first, and then they put the other ones in. And so she's just having a big time with her new friends. Aren't they cute? She'll have so much fun. And then the people that have Casper, she texted me yesterday, and he got to go on his first camping trip this weekend. They went from Kentucky down into Tennessee. Of course, he rode in a horse trailer. But here he is with his new friend, Molly. This is Casper, the big one. And that's Molly, his friend. And his new owner said that he did great. And he's getting more used to getting in and out of the trailer. So he's going to be just doing really good with that. And that just made me so happy. Although, let me tell you, it is still sad to look out and see, where for 10 years, just about, that I've looked out the window for them out in the field, and they're not there. But they're in good homes, and we're adjusting, and we're going to talk about a little change here in a minute. But first, I want to update you about yesterday. We went to the baptizing of my little great nephew. He is 9 years old. And you know what was so sweet is that when he saw us, my girl and me went, he was so, you could just see the gratefulness on his little face that we had come, because that's so important. That's the most important event you could ever do, ever have. And he said, I don't see him very often. I talk to my nieces and my sister-in-law just about every day with text. But he said, oh, I didn't know you were going to be here because I have a gift for you. And I said, well, I'm going to be at your birthday party this afternoon, so you could bring it then. So he said, all right. So we got to be there for his baptizing, and it was so sweet, and just so thankful for that. And then we came back home, and so later we went to his birthday party, and he brought this. He had this little piece of paper all wrapped up with some tape on it. And he is so excited about me having a YouTube channel. And he had told his mom, he wanted my autograph, since I'm getting so famous. Now, I did know exactly what this might just be the holder right here. But he has got a little button here for comment, for you to comment on my videos. And then he's got two more. And I thought that was so sweet. And I'm going to keep those forever. And I even put his name in the date here of when he gave me this. He had told his mom one time that he wanted my autograph. So yesterday at the birthday party, I'd made him a little card, and whenever he opened it up, he said, "Oh, now that he had my autograph." So see, I'm getting really famous around here. Plus this weekend, I made a new purchase. See my new bracelets? Well, yeah, I had to purchase them 3 for $5 from a young entrepreneur who is making money making bracelets. So I've got 3, and my daughter's got 2 or 3. I forgot how many she's got. We've just got all kinds of new things this weekend. We had a great weekend. It is getting a little humid here again, but we're going to have to deal with that. This morning, I told my friend, who is a counselor at one of the schools, they had to go back to work because our county schools, the kids go on Wednesday. That's their first day. And I said, if you need for me to take your son to the golf course, that I would, because she's working. So this morning I went to get him. He is 14, going on 15, and his friend who is 14. And these boys are so sweet. I mean, you know, some kids are hateful as they can be. These kids are sweet, and I like them. So we were going to the golf course. I was going to take them and drop them off. And I said, you all want to go by Hardee's and get some breakfast? And they did. So we went around Hardee's. And I'm telling you what, I hope my memory is not leaving. I hope it's just all that's going on that's got my mind so boggled. But I told him, I said, when we drive up to this window, I don't know if I can give them 2 orders without messing them up, because I have got all this going on in my mind. I didn't sleep good last night. I've got this movement. We're moving my girl next Monday. I've got all that on my mind. I've got all this stuff on my mind, just different things. We had to have the faucet replaced because it was dripping. Had that done this morning. I thought he was real sweet. My husband said, now you should be happy you've got the faucet fixed. I said, I didn't really care if it was fixed or not, but I just hated that, you know, those little drips of water can add up to the water bill. And he said, well, I was in there the other day and it never did drip. So now I'm thinking, was I hallucinating that the water was not dripping? Like when I've been in there and all of a sudden it'll go and it'll be a big bloop. You know, it's not just like drip, drip, drip. It don't matter. We've got a new faucet. But he was saying if it hadn't, you know, if it hadn't been bothering me, he wouldn't even have had it done. But it's a little too late to cry over spilt milk. All right, back to these boys at Hardee's. We're going around the window. They're busy at that time of morning. And I said, I know. One of them said he wanted a bacon, egg, biscuit. So we talked a minute because I was waiting in line, and I said, now you said you wanted a sausage, egg, cheese, biscuit. Well, they laughed, and I said, I cannot do this. It really puts pressure on me whenever I'm trying to make an order and there's 2 or 3 or 4 people in the car. I used to write it down. I had a little paper in the car. So I said, why don't you do it? But he don't talk very loud. And I said, but you're going to have to speak up because you can't just be talking, you know, real quiet. So he thought, he had never done that before. I said, Lord, my girl has been doing that since she's 8 or 9 years old. She can wrap up a package and send it back to Amazon as good as anybody you've ever seen. That girl can do stuff. She can get on the phone and call in an order. She's real good at that. I said, you're nearly 15 years old. You've got to learn how to order. So he said, all right. He was going to just grinning, just cute as a button. And then he said, oh, I don't know. I don't know if I can or not. Well, the one in the back seat said, I'll do it. And so they were paying separately. One with a phone where you had to scan something. The other one with a $20 bill. So this one in the back, he took his seatbelt off and he crawled over to the other window and he was given the order and did a perfect job. Well, they got the biggest kick out of that, and so this one in the front seat videoed him and is going to put it on his YouTube channel. I think I could teach them boys some lessons if they was around me long enough. I don't know what that one's mama's doing if she's not raising him to be able to order at the drive-through window. That's a very important talent that everyone needs to know how to do. But I got those little fellas delivered at the golf course. So now they're going to call me in a few hours when they want to go back home. Because they've only got today and tomorrow, and then Wednesday they're going to have to hit the books. I'll tell you what, these kids are something now. Made another trip to Walmart Saturday, another $300. We've got stuff you would not believe. Paper towels, toilet paper, Kleenex. And my niece that's going with us said that you've got to clean the room when you get there. Now, I don't know how much I'm into that business, but we've got a Swiffer wet dry mop, a rug, all new bed clothing, everything. My husband said, she don't have to take everything the first time she goes. He don't know us girls, so he doesn't know that we've got to have it the first day, right? We can't. And yesterday at the birthday party, there was this guy there that he's going to be going to college. He said, I'm not taking nothing but my clothes. He's in for a rude awakening. But see, that's how boys are. They don't even know that they need to pack certain things because they don't, they don't care. But us girls, we have to have all of our stuff. So, we got about $300 more stuff to get ready to take to school with her. And I'm still thinking of things. Oh, she's got to have this. She's got to have this. But it's going to be here soon. And I want to be happy. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be happy. I promise. Hey, I want to give you a little update on Anne of Green Gables. I want to tell you what I did. Was it Saturday morning? I think it was Saturday morning. I had chapters 5 and 6 already recorded. I'd recorded them like on Friday. And I thought Saturday morning I'll get up and I'll put those up. Because I know that some people don't watch YouTube as much on the weekends maybe as they do during the week. Plus, it seems like I had heard at one time that that people don't watch YouTube as much in the summer as they do the winter. Now, do you think that's true? Tell me if you think, is that true about you? Do you watch it more in the winter? Well, anyway, I put that video up. I mean, it was like 7 o'clock Saturday morning. Well, I'd look every once in a while and it didn't have any views. Didn't have any views. And I thought, what in the world has everybody gone to sleep just because it's Saturday? It took me until that afternoon that I had, the default when you're uploading something is to make it private. And it was made private and I didn't change it to public. So all that day here, you all could have been listening to Anne, and I had marked it as private. So hopefully, lesson learned. You have to live and learn. But again, everyone seemed like they're really enjoying listening to the story. And I know it's not me because I make a lot of mistakes in reading. And a lot of those words, I kind of, when you're reading it to yourself, you can skip over the word. But when I'm reading it to you, I feel like I have to put it in there. And some of those words, every once in a while, they'll just throw a word. You'll just be reading along, just slick as a gut. And all of a sudden, you'll come across a word that, like, where'd that come from? But anyway, I'm enjoying that book as much as you are. And then yesterday afternoon, I had a little time, and I went in there in the bedroom, me and Max, the little boy, we went back there in the bedroom and I recorded a couple more chapters. So this weekend I put up actually 4 chapters. I should get a prize for that. So I hope that you guys are enjoying that. It's such a good story. And I want to tell you, which I know that Chit Chat Granny Pat has been on here a lot longer than I have. I don't know how many years she's been on. But, you know, she's written at least a couple of books. I don't know if it's more than that or not. And she is such a good storyteller. And the other day when I was watching her, she was actually reading a story probably out of one of her books. And if you like storytelling, if you're enjoying Anne of Green Gables, you need to watch Granny Pat, because she has got the sweetest, soothing voice, and you would probably really enjoy some of the stories. And hers are true. So, you know, like from her childhood. It's Chit Chat Granny Pat. If I can remember, I'll put it down in the description. But, I mean, I feel like my mind is running 100 different ways. I've got so much on my mind. But something else, I want to throw in a couple of prayer requests that we've had, but one really good one. Mary had a biopsy the other day, and her biopsy came back as negative, so we're so thankful for that. I'm telling you, us praying, this group is being heard. So let's just keep it up. I mean, that's like 2 or 3 praise reports we've had just since we've been praying, and more than that. And I'm including mine in there as the horses too. Let's see, there was 1 or 2 more really important ones. I've got 2 pages like this now of prayer requests. Let me look at this. I've got a couple more. My friend Othie that lives in Adairsville, she wanted us to pray for her family. Pamela and Opal Allen wanted us to pray for Patricia. I can't remember if that's her daughter or what. And then Barb, you know, this really touched me. Barb said to pray for her ex-husband and his wife, as he's had a bone marrow transplant and not doing well. That really touched me. I thought, you know, here they're divorced, and she's requesting prayer for her ex-husband and his wife. That's love. That's true love from God to be able to do that. Just think of the people that are divorced and just despise each other and would do anything to do something to hurt you. I thought that was so sweet. Another very serious prayer request. Nancy's son, Josh, was in a serious motorcycle accident last Saturday. Not this last Saturday, the one before that. Very serious. Please remember him in prayer. Now, I'm going to talk for just a minute because it's almost time for my girl to be here for lunch. And I got to get this video done. I was thinking this morning about change. You know, we're all going through, we're constantly going through change. We're going through different phases in our life. Well, you know, I'm going through a lot of changes right now about the horses, which is a very simple, not life-threatening, but prayers answered for that. And in my little upper room, it said, changes can bring unexpected blessings. If I think about that, I can relate that to the horses. I can relate that to my girl getting ready to leave. I can relate that to so many things in my life. I was trying to think. It says, "Oh Lord, help us understand that change is a necessary part of our life. Help us to use change in a positive way for our good and the good of others." You know, I was thinking, well, just with my experiences, you know, where I've lived there over 50 years. And it's a lot bigger than we need because it's about, I don't know, about 13 acres or something. You know, you have to keep the fields mowed. There's just things you have to look after, you know, that needs weed eating. There's just a lot of upkeep when you live out like that. And all down through these years, my husband, he loves being outdoors, and he's always kept it mowed, kept it weed eated, you know, kept everything up. Well, now he can't do that. And you come to that time in your life that sometimes you've got to accept change. And my girl, when I've told her, you know, whenever I first started mentioning about the horses, and she just couldn't stand the thoughts of letting them go, well, I couldn't either. But then the more I've read and I've talked to different people, you know, you are constantly going to have to change things in your life as you get older. And the best way to do that is to try to accept it with a positive outlook. Because if you don't, you're really going to be miserable. And I never could even fathom seeing myself ever living anywhere else except there, where we live now. But then, I mean, as much as I love my little house, I couldn't really vision living here as much as I wanted to. But it's more just like a little place to go just for some peace and quiet and just getting off to myself. Well, now, you know, the older I get, I can see us downsizing to a house this size, because I don't even know if it would be half the size of what we've got. And what we've got is not fancy, but, you know, we've had it for years, but it's a full-size basement that is like a house, and then the upstairs, which is 3 bedrooms and kitchen, bath, you know, like everybody else. Change. Getting rid of stuff. It's really you know, it's such a big thing. But this morning I was looking at, well, I think it mentioned it in there, Ecclesiastes in chapter 3, where it says to everything. I'm going to read you just a few verses of that. I've got a funny story. I'm getting off here because my girl's on her way here to eat lunch. Then I got to go pick those boys up from the golf course. I need a nap. And I need to read Anne of Green Gables. So I'm busy. And I've got to figure out something for lunch. Listen to this. I wish you would read this. I'm thinking about, I'm getting some thoughts about us reading a little bit in the Bible. Not me reading it out loud to you, but just maybe us all reading the same few verses each day. Because if you're like me, it is so easy to not read the Bible. And especially since I've been retired, I thought, okay, girl, you don't have an excuse. And so every morning, I do almost every morning, just if something comes up, maybe I won't get to that morning, but I try to do it throughout the day. We need to do that. That's food for us. And I'm not going to read it to you. I'm not going to try to explain it to you because I don't feel like I'm qualified to do that. I'm not trying to teach anybody anything in the Bible, but I can just say what it means to me, and it might it will strengthen you if you decide to do that. But right now I'm going to read you a little bit just in chapter 3 in Ecclesiastes. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to get and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to cast away. A time to rend and a time to sow. a time to keep silence, and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. Hey, if you want to, look that back up today and look at that and think of all those different, this way or that way. It's always time for one or the other. One important of that is I am having some technical difficulties. So my video cut off that I just finished making a few minutes ago. So I'm going to just add the funny story and try to get this uploaded. So I hope to see you on Wednesday. A grandpa said to his grandkid, "Go hide, your teacher is here because you skipped school today." The grandkid said, "You go hide, I told her you passed away." Hey, have a great day, and be nice and be kind. And read that Ecclesiastes, was that chapter 3, for yourself, and see what part of that fits you today. See you soon. Bye-bye.